A challenge to Saddam Hussein as Iranian-based unrest is reported in Iraq. The first Allied prisoners of war heading home. And will the end of the war mean an end to the recession? This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting tonight from CBS News headquarters in New York. Good evening. U.S. military officials today confirmed signs of a growing revolt against Saddam Hussein in southern Iraq. A Shiite Muslim leader based in Iran says his rebel forces have taken over Basra and 5 other Iraqi cities. David Martin has more from Washington. David?
Dan, the war between the U.S. and Iraq may be all but officially over, but there now appears to be a new war, or at least violence, boiling up within Iraq. What appears to be anti-Saddam rioting is happening in at least 6 cities, all in the southern part of the country, which is home to many Shiite fundamentalists more loyal to Iran than Iraq.
We know there's unrest, and we know there's fires, and we know there's probably some shooting in these 6 or so cities. It appears that the Iraqi regime right now is trying to put this down.
The unrest, which has reportedly claimed the life of Saddam Hussein's eldest son, clearly is a product of Iraq's disastrous defeat.
What you have on your hands, returning to Iraq, is a beaten army. And beaten armies can be politically dangerous. If they're human beings, and they are, they're thinking they got stabbed in the back by the regime and they present a threat to the regime.
Actually, there are 2 beaten armies inside Iraq, possibly pitted against each other. The elite Republican Guards, still loyal to the regime, and the regular Iraqi army, bitter at being sent to fight a war it could not win. The Allies could fan the flames by sending tens of thousands of Iraqi POWs home.
If we release the 60,000 plus soldiers back in there, it seems to me it would exacerbate that situation a great deal, because I don't think there would be very many happy soldiers going back. Some of the unrest apparently is being instigated by Iran trying to settle scores from its own war against Saddam. The administration wants Saddam overthrown, but no one wants to see him replaced by a regime loyal or sympathetic to Iran. Dan?
Thanks, David. Refugees are pouring out of Iraq's second largest city, Basra, as war is followed by anarchy. Eric Ingberg has been to the border of Kuwait near Basra.
On the road from Basra today, events were moving swiftly and in several directions at once. Only the wreckage of Saddam Hussein's army was standing still, and it was mostly on fire. As violent opposition to Saddam spilled onto the streets of Basra, the scene at the border was like a new Middle East chess game, which it probably is. Coming this way from Iraq, Kuwaitis who want to go back home, and Iraqis who want to leave home. In the middle, the U.S. Army, in control of both sides of the border and playing traffic cop.
If they're Kuwaiti, I want them across the road. If they're Iraqi, I want them over here.
Iraqis loaded entire families into trucks and ran for the border as clashes erupted between rebels and Saddam's troops in and around Basra. Some said the city was in chaos. 2 Egyptians who had been in prison in the town of Nasiriyah told of being freed by rebellious citizens on the heels of the U.S. capture of the town. There are demonstrations against Saddam, he says, adding that the local leader of Saddam's Ba'ath Party was dragged into the street and killed. The army, he says, is finished. Many of the Iraqis appeared malnourished and reached hungrily for rations offered by the GIs. For Basra residents, the hardships of the long UN embargo had been compounded by the presence in their area of Republican Guard troops who always have first call on food. The road from Basra was also serving as a temporary runway for American transport planes, part of the logistical muscle that gives the U.S. staying power in Iraq. Whether to use this power to help the rebels is a question that's now edging its way onto the list of potentially critical decisions the U.S. is facing in the aftermath of war. Eric Engberg, CBS News, Kuwait City.
The Crown Prince of Kuwait returned home today after 7 months of exile in Saudi Arabia. He will serve as military governor until the monarchy is fully restored. Kuwait's head of state, the emir, will remain in Saudi Arabia until Kuwait City is cleared of bombs and booby traps. It is still not clear how many Kuwaitis were abducted by Iraqi troops. Bob McEwen reports.
It's a story that's been repeated time and time again here in Kuwait. At least 3,000 people seized as hostages by Iraqi soldiers. They were to be used as bargaining chips or human shields. And in this small country, it seems that everyone knows somebody who's been abducted.
The families of the missing worry they'll find their loved ones here, as others have. Since August, Abdullah Yusuf has buried 650 victims of Iraqi torture at this cemetery alone. Today, he buried 8 more.
Every house here in Kuwait, if you ask them, when you miss your son, he said on last Friday. So plenty of houses here in Kuwait, plenty of people in Kuwait captured last Friday.
It's like a hell, and the only thing I can say that you never feel safe, even if you are inside your house.
The mayor of Qadsia says 72 people were abducted last Friday, 82 before that, including both of his sons. Not even children were safe. Now, when Hassan Abbas and his friends play at war, no one wants to be the Iraqis.
My friend, he go and the supermarket.
They hurt him? They beat him?
He's dead. He's dead.
He died?
Yes.
How old was he?
10, like me.
They just disappeared. You know, 1 minute they were with you sitting and laughing, and the next, you know, you don't know what's happened to them.
Kuwaitis hope that those who disappeared will be released now that the war is over, but their real fear is that they will never return, becoming the last Kuwaiti victims of Saddam Hussein. Bob McEwen, CBS News, Kuwait City.
The post-war exchange of prisoners is underway. Iraq began by releasing 10 Allied POWs, 6 of them Americans. In exchange, 300 Iraqis are expected to be released from Saudi Arabia tomorrow. Doug Donnell reports.
The first group of Allied prisoners came out of Iraq tonight, free at last, in Jordan, where the Red Cross turned them over to representatives of their respective governments. There were 6 Americans, including the coalition's only female POW, Melissa Rathbun Neely. When they were released in Baghdad, the Red Cross said all were in good health, a marked contrast to the last time we saw some of them, like Navy pilot Jeffrey Zahn. Shot down on day 1 of the war, he spoke woodenly to a camera at Iraqi TV. Or British pilot John Peters, whose forced appearance and interrogation outraged viewers around the world. He has yet to tell the story of how he received his wounds. The release has raised hopes that 35 other Americans who are still unaccounted for may be alive and well in Iraq too. Today's trip to freedom is to be just the beginning. Red Cross officials are very encouraged tonight. They say arrangements for the release went smoothly, and so they're hopeful that all POWs can be on their way home very soon. Doug Donnell, CBS News, Amman.
President Bush welcomed the prisoner release as a positive first step, but in a speech to a veterans group, cautioned the nation not to relax.
Until every single one of those prisoners is home and every single missing is accounted for to the best of the ability of the Iraqi forces, and also that the Kuwaiti detainees are returned, every single one of them. And that's our goal.
The U.S. so far gives Iraq credit for this quick partial release, but also remains suspicious. The Red Cross, for example, has not been given access to the 6 Americans still believed held prisoner or any information on more than 30 listed as missing. That official mix of relief and skepticism was mirrored today by the POW families. The parents of Navy pilot Jeffrey Zahn, who saw their son so mistreated at the outset of the war, today saw him start his journey home.
There's still a lot of POWs and MIAs that we're really concerned about and praying for. But it was certainly a great relief, and I thank God that the prayers were answered.
For most families of the missing, though, there was no relief today, and worse, no information at all. Sherry Turner's husband, Charlie, was shot down 6 weeks ago.
I'm real nervous right now because we're going to know something soon, and I hope for the best and try to prepare for the worst.
Some families today urge the administration to threaten the Iraqis. Liz Griffith, whose husband Tom was released today, demanded that the Allies keep their guns loaded.
If they show any hint of using the remaining prisoners as bargaining chips or negotiating tools, I hope that President Bush and the American people will have the courage to resume hostilities.
The president is threatening exactly that. Until the prisoner issue is settled, there